In the annals of history, few stories of defiance resonate as powerfully as that of the one-eyed queen who dared to challenge the might of Rome. This isn't just a tale of empires clashing, it's the saga of a kingdom that refused to bend the knee, led by a ruler whose courage became a legend. This is the story of Queen Amanirenas and the Kingdom of Kush. As the 1st century BC drew to a close, the Roman eagle cast a long and imposing shadow across the known world. Animated maps would show its relentless expansion, a tide of conquest that had swallowed nations and erased borders. Having annexed Egypt in 30 BC, the legions of Emperor Augustus pushed ever southward, their disciplined columns marching into the arid lands of Nubia. They established forts and garrisons along the Nile, their presence a constant looming threat on the very doorstep of the ancient and wealthy Kingdom of Kush. To the Romans, this was merely another frontier to be pacified, another territory to be brought under their dominion. But south of the Roman border lay a realm of unique splendor. The vibrant capital of Meroe was a testament to Kushite ingenuity and power, its bustling streets alive with trade, its skyline punctuated by steep, elegant pyramids that stood in stark contrast to their Egyptian counterparts. It was from this heart of power that the Kandake, or Queen Mother, Amanirenas, ruled. Portrayed in carvings as a formidable figure, she was a wise and decisive leader, deeply connected to her people and protective of their heritage. Alongside her stood her son, Prince Akinadad, co-regent and commander, ready to defend their kingdom's sovereignty. The inevitable confrontation arrived with Roman envoys, who marched into Meroe with the arrogance of conquerors. They demanded that Kush submit to Roman rule and pay tribute to Emperor Augustus. But Amanirenas was not a ruler to be intimidated. In a stunning act of defiance, she refused their demands. Rather than wait for the Roman advance, she seized the initiative. In 27 BC, Amanirenas led a formidable army of 30,000 warriors in a surprise offensive, storming the Roman-held cities of Syene, Philae, and Elephantine. The undermanned Roman garrisons were overwhelmed by the ferocity of the Kushite attack. In a symbolic act of ultimate disrespect, her soldiers tore down the statues of Emperor Augustus. Amanirenas herself claimed a prized trophy, a magnificent bronze head of the emperor, taken not as loot, but as a statement. Rome's response was swift and brutal. An incensed Augustus dispatched his prefect of Egypt, Gaius Petronius, at the head of a massive retaliatory force of over 10,000 legionaries. The ensuing conflict was a maelstrom of violence. In one of the fierce battles that followed, the warrior queen fought on the front lines, a beacon of courage for her soldiers. It was here, amidst the chaos of clashing steel and desperate cries, that Amanirenas suffered a grievous wound, losing an eye in the brutal combat. Yet this injury did not break her spirit. Instead, it forged her into the legend of the one-eyed queen, her resolve hardening as she continued to lead her forces with an even greater, unyielding fury against the invaders. After 3 long years of grueling warfare, a stalemate settled over the ravaged borderlands. The Romans had retaken their cities and pushed into Kush, but they could not break the kingdom's will to resist. The Kushites, though battered, remained defiant, launching guerrilla raids that bled the legions dry. Realizing that a conclusive victory would be too costly, Petronius agreed to negotiate. In 24 BC, Kushite envoys met with the Romans on the island of Samos and hammered out a peace treaty. The terms were astonishingly favorable to Kush. The Romans agreed to withdraw to their original border, and most importantly, they waived all demands for tribute. Kush had not just survived, it had won. In Meroe, the victory was immortalized. The bronze head of Augustus was taken to a temple and deliberately buried beneath its steps, so that all who entered would forever trample upon the image of the emperor who tried, and failed, to conquer Kush. In the annals of history, some rulers are remembered for the wars they won, their names etched in stone alongside tales of conquest and valor. But true greatness is not always found on the battlefield. Sometimes it resides in the quiet strength of a leader who chooses to build rather than break, to heal rather than harm. This is the story of such a ruler, a queen who, after defending her kingdom with fierce courage, laid down her sword to pick up the tools of creation. This is the legacy of Amanirenas, the one-eyed queen of Kush, who showed the world that the most profound victory is not in war, but in the flourishing of peace. From the dust and ruin of conflict, a new Meroe began to rise, not by the force of arms, but by the will of its people and the vision of their queen. Where Roman legions had left scars upon the land, the diligent hands of Kushite workers now mended the wounds. Stone by stone, they rebuilt shattered walls and repaired sacred temples, their labor a testament to their resilience. At the heart of this monumental effort was Queen Amanirenas. She was no longer the warrior who faced down an empire, but the architect of a new era. We see her poring over scrolls detailing city plans, her single eye sharp with focus as she directs the grand reconstruction. Her presence was a calming force, her determination the foundation upon which her kingdom would be reborn from its ashes into glory. Under her watchful guidance, the Kingdom of Kush blossomed into a golden age of prosperity. The markets of Meroe, once stilled by the threat of war, now pulsed with life, a vibrant crossroads of culture and commerce. Caravans arrived laden with shimmering gold, precious ivory, and exotic spices from the heart of Africa, while ships sailed the Nile carrying fine textiles and intricate glassware from distant lands. The kingdom's artisans, inspired by this cultural renaissance, entered a period of extraordinary creativity. They crafted jewelry of exquisite detail, molded pottery with unique Meroitic designs, and carved reliefs that told the stories of their gods and their people. Above it all, the distinctive steep-sided pyramids of Kush stood as proud symbols of a civilization at its zenith, their dark stone gleaming under the brilliant African sun. Amanirenas understood that a legacy is not built with stone alone, but with the wisdom passed to the next generation. Her focus shifted to her son, Prince Akinidad, whom she groomed not for conquest, but for enlightened leadership. She taught him that a ruler's strength is measured by the well-being of their people, not the size of their army. Together they walked through the bustling streets and verdant fields, listening to the concerns of farmers, merchants, and priests. She instructed him in the delicate arts of diplomacy, the complexities of trade, and the paramount importance of justice for all. It was a lesson in governance rooted in compassion and foresight, ensuring that the peace she had fought for would endure long after she was gone. The queen's vision materialized across the kingdom. New, magnificent temples were consecrated, their walls adorned with inscriptions celebrating peace and prosperity. Great reservoirs were constructed, capturing the life-giving waters of the Nile floods and transforming arid lands into fertile fields that yielded abundant harvests. The results of her peaceful reign were visible everywhere. Laughter echoed in the villages as healthy, well-fed children played in the shade of acacia trees. The kingdom celebrated its bounty with vibrant festivals, their music and dance a joyous expression of a nation secure and content. Amanirenas had not just rebuilt a city, she had cultivated a society where her people could thrive in safety and happiness. In the final years of her reign, an older, serene Amanirenas would often look out from her palace, her gaze falling upon the thriving capital she had nurtured. The city of Meroe, with its grand avenues, majestic temples, and bustling markets, was a living testament to her leadership. The scars of war had faded, replaced by the enduring monuments of peace. Her true victory was not the stalemate she forced upon Rome, but the decades of prosperity that followed. It was in the quiet hum of a peaceful city, the fields of golden grain, and the faces of a contented people. In the grand tapestry of world history, where the threads of war and conquest often dominate, the story of Amanirenas shines brightly, a timeless reminder that the greatest legacy a ruler can leave is not one of empire, but one of enduring peace. In the annals of history, certain leaders rise not through the clash of swords alone, but through the sheer force of their intellect. They are the grandmasters of the geopolitical chessboard, their minds their most formidable weapon. Among these brilliant strategists was Amanirenas, the one-eyed Kandake of Kush, a queen whose cunning was as legendary as her courage. Her story is not just one of defiance, but a masterclass in outmaneuvering an empire at the peak of its power, proving that true strength lies in the wisdom to choose one's battles and the genius to win without fighting. The sun-drenched lands of the Kingdom of Kush thrived, a testament to centuries of prosperity and cultural richness. Golden trade caravans moved freely, their vibrant banners a common sight against the desert horizon. But a shadow was stretching from the north, from the newly annexed Roman province of Egypt. There, at the border, the ambitious new governor, Gaius Petronius, cast a covetous gaze upon Kush's wealth. He saw not a proud, independent kingdom, but an opportunity for glory and plunder. To him, the established peace treaty was merely a suggestion, an obstacle to be swept aside in his quest for personal advancement. The air grew thick with unspoken tension as the predator sized up its prey. The pretense of peace was shattered abruptly. Acting on Petronius's implicit command, Roman legionaries manufactured a border incident, overwhelming a Kushite trade caravan with brutal efficiency. They seized precious goods, ivory, gold, and ebony, and left a trail of violence in their wake. Word of this brazen aggression traveled swiftly south to the capital, Meroe. In the grand throne room, the news fell like a stone. Queen Amanirenas, her one eye missing from a previous battle against the Romans, listened intently, her expression a mask of regal composure. Beside her, Prince Akinidad, her trusted son and advisor, struggled to contain his fury. The insult was clear. The the provocation deliberate. War seemed inevitable. But Amanirenas was no hot-headed ruler driven by pride. She understood the true nature of the game being played. Instead of the thunderous call to arms her court expected, she chose a path of calculated restraint. A diplomatic envoy was dispatched, not to beg for peace, but to measure the character of her new adversary. The meeting with Governor Petronius was a frigid affair. The Roman was arrogant, dismissing the Kushite emissaries with thinly veiled contempt. He spoke of Roman might and Kushite weakness, making it abundantly clear that he held the existing treaty in little regard. The message was unmistakable. Petronius was a rogue element, driven by ambition, and he believed Kush was too weak to challenge him. Returning to Meroe, the envoy's report confirmed the queen's suspicions. Petronius was acting on his own initiative, hungry for a quick military victory to bolster his career. A direct war would play right into his hands, draining Kushite resources against the might of the Roman legions. So, Amanirenas crafted a two-pronged strategy of exquisite cunning. She bypassed the belligerent governor entirely, sending a secret, high-level delegation directly to Rome. Their message to Emperor Augustus was a masterpiece of diplomacy. It respectfully reminded him of the long-standing peace treaty his own revered predecessor had signed, while subtly detailing the illegal, unsanctioned aggression of his governor, an act that threatened regional stability and the emperor's own authority. Simultaneously, she ordered a massive military mobilization, not for an invasion, but for a drill. Thousands of Kushite warriors, with their famed archers and cavalry, engaged in elaborate, large-scale maneuvers right near the Egyptian border. A spectacular and intimidating show of force, perfectly positioned to be observed by Roman spies and reported back to a nervous Petronius. The Queen's gambit paid off spectacularly. In his provincial headquarters, a seething Gaius Petronius received an unequivocal and humiliating dispatch from Rome. The message, bearing the seal of Emperor Augustus himself, commanded him to stand down immediately, cease all hostilities, and return every last piece of seized Kushite property. He had been completely outplayed, his ambition checked not by an army, but by the strategic mind of a queen he had so foolishly underestimated. Back in the palace of Meroe, the news was received with quiet satisfaction. Queen Amanirenas stood with Prince Akinidad, her gaze falling upon a map of her kingdom. The borders were secure, the peace preserved, and not a single drop of Kushite blood had been shed in a needless war. Thus, through a symphony of shrewd diplomacy and psychological warfare, Queen Amanirenas cemented her legacy. She demonstrated that the greatest victories are not always won on the battlefield, but in the minds of one's opponents. Her story serves as an enduring reminder that true power is not merely the ability to wage war, but the wisdom to make it unnecessary, securing peace and prosperity through intelligence, foresight, and an unyielding resolve to protect her people and her kingdom. The sun bled across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet, a final glorious spectacle for the one-eyed queen. Her gaze, though dimmed by age, held the weight of 1,000 battles and a hard-won peace. She sat on the terrace of her palace in Meroe, the once ravaged capital now a testament to her resilience. The desert wind, cool and gentle, whispered through the grand columns, carrying with it the scents of river water and sand. King Akinidad, her son and heir, approached with a quiet reverence, his presence a comforting warmth beside her frail form. He was no longer the boy prince who had watched her lead armies, but a king forged in her image, strong and wise. Her voice, though thin, was steady, each word a carefully polished stone of wisdom. "The sun sets, my son," she began, her single eye fixed on the dwindling light. "But the kingdom must always see the dawn. A ruler's strength is not in the wars they win, but in the peace they build. Remember that. Remember the people, for they are the true foundation of Kush." Leaning heavily on Akinidad's arm, she rose for one last walk through the city she had resurrected from the ashes of Roman conflict. The streets, once silent with fear, now pulsed with life. Merchants closed their stalls, children paused their games, and builders laid down their tools. As she passed, a wave of silent, profound respect followed her. No cheers, no grand pronouncements, just the deep, unspoken gratitude of a people for their kandake, their warrior, their mother. They saw not just the frail elder, but the titan who had faced down an empire and forced the mighty Augustus to the negotiating table. Every stone in the rebuilt temples, every thriving marketplace, was a verse in the epic of her reign. She was Meroe, and Meroe was her. This quiet, dignified procession was a more powerful tribute than any monument. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of her chambers, the queen lay still. The artifacts of her extraordinary life surrounded her. The captured Roman standards, the intricate gold jewelry of a Nubian monarch, and the papyrus scrolls detailing the peace treaty that had secured her kingdom's future. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the soft flickering light of oil lamps. Akinidad held her hand, its skin as thin as parchment, and watched as the last breath left her. There was no struggle, no final cry, only a peaceful surrender. The Lioness of Kush, the queen who had lost an eye in battle and never shed a tear, had finally found her rest. The silence that followed was not empty, but filled with the echoes of a life lived with unwavering courage and an unyielding love for her people. A kingdom's heart broke. The news of her passing spread through Meroe not as a shout, but as a somber whisper that snaked through every home and every soul. The funeral procession was a river of white linen and silent sorrow, flowing through the heart of the capital towards the royal necropolis. At its head walked King Akinidad, his face a mask of grief, yet his shoulders were squared, his back straight. He carried the weight of his mother's legacy and the future of his kingdom. The people lined the streets, their heads bowed, their silent tears a final offering to the queen who had given them everything. The procession moved slowly, deliberately, a grand, solemn pilgrimage to lay their mother to rest among the gods and kings of old. As the first light of dawn broke over the desert, casting long shadows from the royal pyramids, King Akinidad stood alone. Before him loomed the newly sealed pyramid, a grand and imposing structure destined to stand against the sands of time. It was more than a tomb. It was a monument to her will, a permanent scar on the horizon reminding all who saw it of the one-eyed queen who dared to defy an empire and emerge victorious. The camera pulls back, revealing the scale of the necropolis, a city of the dead ruled by one immortal queen. Her body was gone, but her spirit was now etched into the very landscape of Kush, a timeless guardian watching over the kingdom she had saved. Whose legacy should we explore next? Subscribe to Legacy Thread and continue the journey through history.